Welcome to the PTSD Podcast with your host, comedian and military veteran, Bernard the Laugh Therapist Hines, where we discuss PTSD, processing traumatic situations differently, and give you tools to help you overcome the stigma of seeking help. If you're ready to be inspired, then welcome to the Stigma-Free Zone. Here's your host, the Laugh Therapist himself, Bernard Hines.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are listening to this podcast. I am your host, Bernard Hines, a.k.a. the Laugh Therapist, and welcome to the PTSD Processing Traumatic Situations Differently podcast. Here, we try to inform, enlighten, and become advocates for one another as we learn more productive ways to process our trauma. Always remember, though, as a therapist, I am not licensed. I am only medicated. Welcome to the Stigma-Free Zone. How y'all doing today? My name is, as I said, the Laugh Therapist. Listen, my guest today is Miss Mylira Green. She is a certified complex trauma professional, but not only that, she is a lot in the mental health field. And right now, we're going to bring her on so we can hear more about this amazing young lady. How you doing, Miss Green?
I am doing amazing. I will not complain. How are you?
I'm doing well. Please tell me that I said your name correctly.
You actually did.
Come on now. That's that Norfolk Public School system coming through.
I'm here for it.
That's that Norfolk Public School. Thank you for being here today. You are a busy woman. You have a lot going on. You are great. But I want to first of all say you are an alum of the Norfolk State University, correct?
Absolutely. Behold the green and gold every single day.
Okay, behold the green and gold. Okay, and you also went to Southern California. Is that USC?
Yes, I'm also a Trojan.
Come
yes,
on
sir.
now. Trojan. Now, are you finished at Regent or you still at Regent University?
I am still at Regent University. I am 60% finished. So I got about another year and a half before I can call myself Dr. Green. So
Okay.
yeah.
So we got a 60% and we got a year left. So that's 6012. That's your pick 4 number for the day. I like to throw out pick 4 and pick 3 numbers because there's a lot of folks up here who play the lottery. So I'm not condoning it, but that's just what my patients do. I call them, they're my patients.
Now listen, I get it.
Oh my goodness. Listen, y'all, we're gonna have a great time today. But listen, I know you have done a lot, but you have also dealt with your own depression and your own trauma. If you can just tell the people a little bit about your story.
Absolutely. So what I would tell anybody, I am so grateful that I'm able to turn my pain into purpose.
Come on now.
So all that I do is because I wanted to become the me for me that I needed in my life.
Okay.
So at the age of 3, I was introduced to adult play. And I didn't know that it was wrong.
Okay.
It was by family. And then what I ended up doing, and I tell people this all the time, I have to live with this, but I was the victim that became a victimizer. So from 3 to 13, I struggled with my sexuality. I struggled with what sex was, what body image was. So because of that play, that's what I thought was right. When I turned 13, it felt yucky to me. So I did a complete overhaul, and I wish I could say I did a 180, but I did a 360, just doing it differently in another space.
Got it.
And I ended up becoming very promiscuous. I was diagnosed as morbidly obese at 13 years old. So people would say, hey, you got a pretty face, but your body gnaws. So then what I learned was how to get love utilizing the one thing that everybody kind of shunned. So I utilized my adult play, but in another area, and I was extremely promiscuous, and I had boyfriends since I was 13, very long-term relationships. But then what ended up happening was I dealt with my own suicidal ideations. I dealt with my own depression, not loving who I was, not loving what I saw in the mirror. I always thought that there was something defective about me. So then I ended up attracting people who were defective as well. So then I became what I call Captain Save-A-Ho, where I started to save them and bringing these people into my family and just other things. And I still kept getting hurt. And I call myself the most popular, unpopular person ever. Everybody knew who I was, but I didn't have my group. I didn't have where I belong. I didn't have the spaces where I shared the most important moments. So like
Correct.
I would invite everybody to my parties, but I wouldn't get invited to anybody else's parties. So then now you have this space in my mind that told me I wasn't enough. So at 16, I ended up getting sexually assaulted. And that literally started my senior year. So I was 2 weeks in as a senior. And that's when that happened. So for me, that put me down the path of that's where my PTSD started. It wasn't from the 3 to 13 because again, I was young. I didn't know that, but that 16, that took me out.
Wow.
And I didn't even apply for college. My mom did. So when I got
Okay.
to Norfolk State at 17, I almost took my life because I was just like, yo, I am so like, I'm tired of being everything for everybody, but it just feels like I'm nothing. I feels like
Correct.
I'm not important. And my dad knocked down the door 3 seconds before I put the solution to my mouth. And that was the moment where I decided, okay, God, you must got something in store for me. And I'm not going to give up. And I threw myself into my schoolwork. And I feel like that was the best thing I could have ever done because I learned how to be the me for me that other people just did not have the capacity to do. And then now that's what I've dedicated my life. So when I die, I want suicide to die with me because I still have those thoughts daily. I still have
Correct.
a therapist. I still, have a life coach. I'm still constantly working on myself. But I've learned that just because I have broken pieces don't mean I'm not usable. And that's
Wow.
kind of my story there.
Wow. I listen, it was just so much to unpack, but that part about people didn't have the capacity.
Mm-mm.
And that's what we try to do. We try to make that person be that for us, and they just might not have the capacity to do that or
No.
be that.
Yeah, and Wayne Dyer says it this way. He says, especially with our parents, we
Hmm.
expect our parents to give us what they just do not have. So he said, if I need 12 oranges and I was to tell you right now, hey, can you give me 12 oranges? If you don't have it, you got to go out to the store and get it. But some people emotionally don't have the financial capacity to
Wow.
purchase the love, the forgiveness, the support, the understanding that we look for them to have. So for me, I had to understand that I got to become me for me. I
Hmm.
got to believe in the God that's inside of me. I got to believe in the knowledge, the experience, the things that I know that I have for me to be able to move forward. And that took me years to do. Heck, I'm currently processing that
Come on.
now, but it
Right.
got to the point where I had to realize that people just don't have it. And I can't expect me from anybody. I'm a
Hmm.
unique individual. I am very loving. I'm probably the most empathetic person that people can meet, but it's because I realized my pain and my
Mm.
story didn't happen to me, but it happened for me to be something for other people. But everybody doesn't have that same capacity to shift to that mindset. So I'm
Correct.
learning to be more patient, more loving, more understanding to the people that I have in my space so that I can actually appreciate them instead of continuing to add more hurt and pain to myself because they're not meeting my expectations. But they're my expectations. It's not them,
Mm.
it's mine. So that's what I'm learning now.
But I don't know how much you charge by the hour, but you just helped me in 2 minutes. That I got to give you, Lord, that is totally Bernard Tyrone Hines in a nutshell. Oh my God, that was good. Listen, y'all got that for free. That was woo. Listen, we just getting started. I know this is gonna be good. Listen, so you are a complex trauma professional.
Yes.
Explain what that is, because it is a lot. That right there is complex right there.
So we have done a lot of talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, and it
Hmm.
first started out for specifically people who came back from war to try to explain to individuals why they didn't come back the same, right?
Hmm.
But then they realized it wasn't just people that went to war, but we also have big T's and little T's. It's easy for us to understand a big T, which is like war, sexual abuse and assault, child abuse and neglect, an accident, a sudden death, a national disaster. We
Hmm.
know that that's traumatic.
Got it.
But what we haven't really talked about is the little T's that create complexities into our personalities.
Okay.
So what our little T's will be if I went to school and I didn't like lunch today, but we don't have food at my house and I am completely starving, and I come home and I'm reminded every day my mom just does not have it or my dad just does not have it. That's a little T, because that stays with me. That story is processing for me. If emotionally I had a tough day and my parents didn't know, and I'm not trying to just put everything on parents, but my parents didn't have the emotional capacity to say, hey, how are you feeling today? That could have been a trauma, because that one time I came home, I was ready to talk about that bully. I was ready to talk about my grade and that teacher, but nobody asked me, how am I? That can be a little small T. Or if I go out and then somebody look at me the wrong way, for me, right, I can only use myself. It's
That's
okay.
it. Yeah, that's why I
I
say all
am
the
bow-legged and pigeon-toed. You know Tommy Pickles from the Rugrats?
Yes.
That is me, right? And you know I'm always out in these streets. But when you first see me, you don't know, because people just see this part. That
Correct.
I am Tommy Pickles all day long. So a little T of mine can be people staring at me when I'm in public,
Wow.
because the way that I walk. So for
Okay.
me, I am I used to be very conscious of where I went, because I didn't want people to look at me. But for me, that's a miracle, because up until 2 years old, I couldn't even go outside and run and play and things like that. So walking for me is a miracle. But now I'm traumatized because of how people look at me. And although nobody ever came up to me and said, girl, look at your legs, I saw the looks.
Got it.
That was a little small trauma. So the reason why I became a certified complex trauma professional is because there is 90% of every individual that have experienced some form of trauma. The complex part is when it's compound of the little teeny things.
Wow.
That I couldn't take care of my bills, that I didn't have the clothes I wanted to wear. I got bullied. I didn't like how I looked in the mirror. Spiritual trauma. I went to church and they told me this is how I'm supposed to live, but this is not the life they live. All these things, that what happens in this house stays in this house.
Yes.
It piles up on us so much that it changes the chemical makeup of your brain. It's not just a situation that happens. It literally changes how your neurons fire. So for me, having a young kid, my son, we're actually testing him to make sure if he has ADHD, autism, or anything like that, because he has behavioral challenges, right?
Okay.
For my son specifically, and I started noticing it, I said, how many more children is having these different behaviors, but we don't know how to treat it?
Correct.
For my son, I can confidently say that he hasn't had any traumas outside of when he was born. We both almost died.
Okay.
So that's his entrance in life. That could be a trauma that his DNA knows, right?
Correct.
However, there's some kiddos that don't have their parents. There's some kiddos that's been assaulted, that's been abused. But guess what we give them? We give them Ritalin to help them focus.
Correct.
What happens with that medication? It further impacts that bridge between the neuron that normally fires and the neuron that now can't fire because I have a trauma. That medication double times that space.
Okay.
So what my thing was, especially in Black and brown individuals, when they go to school, I said, don't give them the medication if you haven't learned their trauma. So for me, it was to become someone that looks like these individuals.
Okay.
To tell you, before you take this medication, I need to know your full history. Not just you can't focus, not just you're a jumping jelly bean, which my son is 100%.
Okay.
But I need to know what is your history before I make it even further an impact by giving you the wrong medications, giving you the wrong treatment. And I said, in order for me to change that, I got to be someone to know this stuff. So when I'm saying it, you know, I'm not just saying it out of my mouth, but I have the knowledge. And that's why I became it, because I wanted to understand my son's behavior.
Okay.
I wanted to understand how my past was impacting me. And I wanted to understand how to better advocate for individuals that just don't know. We can give a diagnosis all day.
Love to
how
give
you
diagnosis.
treat it, right?
Right.
How I treat it is what's going to give this person more life or slowly kill them mentally, because I'm not giving them the right treatment. So that's why I became this CCTP that people see on the screen.
Wow. Y'all see that? LCSW, CCTP times 2. Y'all, my mind right now is just going, because she is breaking down. If you listen, y'all make sure you let folks know about this podcast, because this right here is awesome. I love it. Now, when you was talking about, we're gonna switch gears on this. When you was talking about uh, your legs and your feet and stuff like that, it's amazing because technically, I stutter, and it came from trauma, and me being talking publicly, it terrifies me sometimes, but I have turned that into, now I do comedy. So now if I stutter, I say a joke about it. But that was my whole life though. Joking about it, never dealing with certain things, brushing stuff under the rug. But this is what I wanted to get to. You did I don't know if it was a boudoir photo shoot or something right there. Now explain if you were self-confident about all that, what made you do that? Because that was powerful.
So here's the crazy part. I am the confidence coach
Okay.
for myself.
Mm.
And I know that people are like, well, that's an oxymoron. Like, how can you be this professional and you claim to be all these things? It's because people want to know they're not by themselves.
That is the truth.
So for my boudoir photo shoot that I did, people don't really know. If you met me in my life now, my biggest was 319 pounds.
Okay.
In 2019, my doctor looked at me. She said, listen, either you're going to lose this weight or I'm going to have to break your hips. Because the way that I was walking, I was literally in pain. I was 26 years old, hobbled over in Walmart just from 5 minutes walking to go get me some fruit.
Okay.
I couldn't even go and play with my kids. I had to have an extender when I got on airplanes. Like, I was in pain.
Okay.
So what ended up happening was, with me being in pain, it's like, look, you either gonna break these hips, girl, or you gonna lose weight. And I literally broke down because I was like, I've tried everything from 13 to lose weight, from going to specialists, and they're like, your body functions just normally. I don't know what's going on. I did every diet under the sun. The same thing that I would try to lose weight, I ended up gaining weight a couple months later.
Wow.
So then I ended up getting the gastric sleeve.
Okay.
And that was in 2019. I lost about 145 pounds. And I got to what I would say is my goal weight. You cannot tell me nothing. Crop top galore. So much so I had to talk to my daughter, like, baby girl, you can't wear your top like that. She's like, but mommy, look at your top. I had to change that. But what ended up happening was COVID. I lost 26 people back to back. And that took me and pushed me, I would say, and not even an excuse, but just to kind of give you an understanding, it pushed me into my old habits.
Okay.
So I ended up gaining about 60 pounds back from the 145 that I lost. And for months, I struggled just hating what I saw in the mirror, because it's different when your goal weight is somebody in the magazine.
Correct.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But when your goal weight is you, and you can go back and you can look at pictures and you look the bomb, right? And then now it's like, what happened?
Correct.
Though what happened was like, but I can't love the inner me. And two, I love the masterpiece that God created me to be, and that has to be on the outside. So for years, as a confidence coach, as a therapist, as a minister for some time, I would talk to people about their mindset. You know,
Okay.
if you have positive affirmations, if you love yourself, if you know that you're enough, then that will be enough. But then I realized I can say all of that in my mind, but if I am running away from my image in the mirror, I am missing a part of God's creation, which is the image of me. He made me in his likeness, but if I can't even look at the him that he created me to be, I'm missing something.
Wow.
So I said, you know what? Let me do a self-love event. And I have a really good guy friend of mine that boudoir is his ministry.
Okay.
Of course, in the Christian church, people look against it. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm helping him out, but it's also helping me out, right?
Correct.
So we did this event. We did these boudoir photos, and I was like, man, I gained 60 pounds, but I still look a little, a little good, right?
Correct. Okay.
And I posted the pictures, and of course I had majority of people understood the assignment. They understood, hey, she's trying to tell us to love ourselves just as we are. It don't matter what size you are, what shape, what race, like, come on. And then I had my group photos of all the ladies that came. So some of the ladies was like, hey, Mylira, I've never even did a photo shoot before.
Wow.
So you got them in lingerie and feeling good and saying, like, because of you, I now feel like I love myself. But there was a couple people that missed what it was for.
Okay.
And it was those people that I would say, if they do watch this, we got to deal with our own traumas.
Come on now.
Because if my photo of me talking about loving this masterpiece, this creation of God, make you think sexual, then that's
Mm.
you. So when I took these pictures, I got questions like, so are you still a therapist? Are you still a coach? Are you still a Christian? I'm like, so what status and caption did you not read? Because for me, I am learning to love this outer core of me. I
Mm.
love the inside of Mylira all day long.
Correct.
But this outer core, oh, I'm a bully. I have not been nice to her. So those pictures was my representation of God, if you made me to be this way, whether I
Mm-hmm.
lose a pound, whether I gain some pounds, whatever happens to this outer meat suit, this is going to deteriorate one day. And when I die, they're not going to put my casket on a scale and say how much she weighed. They're going
Ooh.
to say, what did she do with her life? So because of that, I want to love the me that I
Mm-hmm.
see every day and not run away from who I am. I want to love this masterpiece that is mastering peace. That's what that photo shoot was all about. And I brought other women along with me so
Mm-hmm.
that they can do the same thing. Because yes, I'm a confidence coach all day because confidence takes work.
Yes.
Confidence takes work. You got
Yes,
to
it
build
does.
your relationship with God. So I do that through all the things, and that's where those pictures came from.
Wow. That is great. I tell everybody, I only all I want to do is get to the point when you take a picture of me and I just walk away. Now when
Mhm.
folks take a picture, let me see it. How I look.
Yep.
That's how I want to get to. Take the picture. That's how I look and walk away. Because you you do your specialty, you got, stress, anxiety, trauma, abuse, self-esteem, depression. But I want to talk about this self-esteem part because you hit on a great thing with your pictures. You did that to help. That was for you. But how is this social media messing with people's self-esteem and self-worth? Mainly our teenagers and
Mm.
some adults. What is your take on that?
So, social media started out to help us connect with our loved ones,
Correct.
right?
Okay.
And again, for me specifically, I have over 30 plus aunts and uncles on my mother's side by
Hmm.
themselves,
Okay.
right? There is no way I can talk to 30 plus people every week.
Correct.
So for me, my social media is all about connecting with
Hmm.
people, uplifting people, and all of that. However, there's an ugly side of social media,
Okay.
and some of it is birthed out of comparison. I
Hmm.
don't know if you know the young lady Nona Jones, and normally I have the book next to me, but it's downstairs. It's called Killing Comparison. She's
Okay.
actually the person that is over Meta's spiritual side of things. And she also helps with You Virgin. So the way that she puts it is we compare ourselves so much
Hmm.
because we haven't dealt with our stuff.
Okay.
We haven't dealt with the things that we disqualify ourselves for. We haven't dealt with those pieces. So when I'm looking at someone else, I am only looking at their fruit.
Hmm.
Like I tell people all the time, like I get this and it makes me so uncomfortable. People hear this all the time. Like I hate being like, oh my God, Mylira, the local celebrity. Or, oh my God, look at Mylira. She did this, she did that. And I'm like, y'all, this is my 8th year. My apples are finally growing. You didn't
Okay.
see the 8 years
Yes.
of me having to plant the seed, me having to go
Mm.
prune, me have to deal with some of the stuff that I talk about with my story. All I did was stop my story at 17. It continues.
Okay.
I got 2 more Me Too stories after that. One in a workplace and one 2 weeks ago coming back home on an airport, like
Wow.
on an airplane. So for me, I tell people don't look at my life and be
Hmm.
like, oh my God, y'all just getting highlights.
Right. That's it.
You're not getting the moments where I wanted to send my kids back to sender because they ain't listening.
Correct.
You're not getting the moments that, okay, in this moment, me and my husband, we ain't really vibing together. So I need you to go over there. You're gonna see the highlights of my life. But then when I do come, I pride myself on my transparency and my integrity because I don't want people looking at my life
That's right.
and then end up taking their owns because they're like, dang, I'm not like her, or I didn't
Mm.
get to her, or I didn't do whatever. So I try to make sure on my social media you get the good, the bad, the
Bad.
ugly,
Come on
the
now.
beautiful, and all of that. Because when I took my pictures, I lie to you not, I had so many people that kept saying, I wish I could do that. And I'm like,
Mm.
but why can't
Why
you?
can't you?
Because
That's right.
I didn't really, I wanted to do it, but I didn't want to do it.
Hmm.
I don't want to be in front of the camera. And the funny part about it is I got sick as a dog.
Okay.
Midway between that event. I took my pictures. I helped all the other ladies. And then whatever that stomach virus was going around a couple months ago, it hit me mid photo shoot.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. So what I've learned is when people look, social media is a facade.
Yes,
right?
it is.
But what I will tell people is your life is what you focus on. Our reality has zero to do with what we see, but all to do with what we believe.
Okay.
And what I've learned with social media, it reflects back to your focus. The moment that I started to think about self-love, I started thinking about bettering myself. I started doing self-help stuff, going back to my own therapy, all those things. My social media now reflects where I'm trying to go.
Okay.
I don't get the craziness anymore. I don't get the people that I need to compare myself with. I don't get the people that brag about their elaborate life. I literally have attracted those people of where I want to go. So if someone is on their social media and all you're seeing is people that you are comparing yourself with, you got to be in control of your algorithm.
Correct.
Every time you go on Google, you go to Facebook, what you see, the very thing that you just searched on Google. Like you have to learn how to navigate those spaces and then also know when enough is enough. Social media for me, I work from home all day. Hell, y'all in my room right now. Okay?
Correct.
So I work from home all day. So social media is my only form of connection.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've learned was I had to put limits and boundaries on it so then I don't get to a place where now I'm missing out. So now I don't have any push notifications. Now I only have an hour of time that I can actually be on social media, scrolling, posting, whatever. And then at the same time, I also realized that I don't need to be everybody's friend.
Say that again. Yes.
I don't need to be everybody's friend. So as a business owner, we are taught connect with people that's in your industry and things like that. That is the worst advice that we can give people because what happens if I start to follow coaches? When I first got I followed all these coaches and I'm seeing people talking with Les Brown and who I love. I see people with John Maxwell, who I love. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, dang, what are they doing that I'm not doing?
Right.
So let me go and be their friend. Let me try to befriend them because they can put me in spaces that I want to be in. Ask me how many people put me in any spaces just because they connected to somebody.
Come on now.
0.
Right.
So for social media, for our youth and things like that, I literally was just talking to my husband. I said, listen, we used to be young life counselors.
Okay.
And as young life counselors, every week we will plan for our children, for the kids that we had. We had Bible studies. We had clubs. We had speeches that we did. I said, why don't we take that same mindset and do it for my kids?
Wow.
So that my kids is not raised by TikTok, that my kids is not raised by Facebook. And my kids are only 7 and 4, but they come home and they know the TikTok dances.
Right.
And they don't even have a TikTok. So even if I'm not doing it, they're exposed to it. So I said, it's going to be up to me to be intentional about filling their time. So when they do go to social media, they know what not to look at.
Correct.
They know what not to entertain. They know what not to do. And I'm going to lead by that example. By number 1, social media, listen, it's a mirror. If you are getting crap, it's because you're feeding yourself crap. And I know we don't want to talk about that, but that's the thing.
That's the
Number 2, you need to be aware of who you're following, who you're entertaining, because at the end of the day, you don't have to follow that person's page. So if every time you see that person and they rub you the wrong way, unfriend them.
Period.
Stop following them.
Period.
And then 3, take accountability for your time. Like you have to know that time only exists within the realm of which you see it. We get 24 hours. That's great. But what are you actually doing with that time? If you find yourself angry and envious, obviously you're spending your time focused on everybody else and not you. So replace that time with therapy. Replace that time with a coach. Replace that time with your kids. Replace that time with actual interactions with people. So as you're scrolling, you begin to see things that's going to fill you and not take from you.
And that is you are speaking nuggets. You are speaking because when I had retired from my government job, I was going to do comedy full time, and then COVID hit. Oh my goodness, here I am. all on social media, all on this. My mind getting clouded because this podcast was supposed to be birthed 2 years ago. But I was thinking, I can't do this. This person got a podcast. Look how many people, subscribers they got. And you start comparing yourself to the other day. I did a post. I said, just want y'all to know, me and Trish had an argument and we went to bed and we didn't speak to each other. We went to bed mad. And I posted that. I said, because y'all always trying to hear good stuff. Nobody posted bad stuff. And people, because I'm a comedian, people took that as a joke, but I was just trying to make a point. You only see what people want you to see, and it's always the good stuff.
Yep. And we got to be mindful of that. Like, again, it's highlights. And that's why for me, I try as much as I possibly can. I'm learning the balance because I can be very transparent to a fault. If you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you full blown out answer. And I don't care who it is, what it is. And sometimes that gets me in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Because every question don't need a full answer.
At all.
But what I've also learned is that I want my life to be transparent so then people can know just because I am a therapist, just because I am a coach, just because I'm a believer, don't mean that I don't have rough moments. Just because my husband and I choose to last forever, don't mean that I ain't got to choose to last with you today. Just because I work with children, don't mean my kids are the best of the best. So I try to be as vulnerable and transparent as necessary so then other people can understand we got to give ourselves permission to have a human experience.
Correct.
This social media life is great to keep us connected. But what we've done is we've replaced our human experience with social media experience. True. The more I'm on this, the more I post, the more content. And then everybody, they mama business owners, which is another conversation for another day. But we're told you got to live on there. You got to push content. You got to do this. You got to do that. So while I'm doing all these things and then I see other people's numbers, I see what other people are doing, I discount myself. Correct. I'm a victim of that. I discount myself so much that when people tell me how great I am, I don't even listen. Like, I really don't, because I'm sitting and I'm like, okay, I'm a local celebrity, but I still got stickers on my Nissan Sentra outside of my house. I'm still in a condo. Like, what celebrity you seeing? I ain't got no, like, what's going on? But I've learned that comes from when I was scrolling on social media and seeing all these people making six figures and doing all these things. And it's like, Mylira, stop comparing yourself. Here's one thing I want to leave when we're even talking about this here. Psalms 139 has become my favorite scripture. Okay. But the biggest piece of that, it says, every day of my life is already written. We got to understand that we can't slow down or speed up God's time. The only question is, are you going to be ready when he actually provided for you?
Correct.
So with social media, we have to understand, I don't care what that person's story is saying. I cannot change the writing of my story, no matter how jacked up or no matter how heavenly I am.
Correct. That's good.
It just depends on what am I prepared when it comes to me? And when we have that mindset, we won't compare anymore because we understand my story already written. That's their story. Now I can clap for them because that's their story. When I change the next page, I don't know where my next page is going to leave me. It may be farther than what they are or maybe more behind. But either way, it's my story and I have to be okay with it.
Wow. Listen, this leads right into the next question I have for you. How has your faith played a part in what you do? Because I have a shirt that says, I talk to God and a therapist. And you know, in the black church or in the black community, you talk to God only and the pastor. You don't talk to nobody else. But how does your faith play a part in that?
So it plays everything for me. And I'm a little unique. Okay. In the sense of when my husband and I first got married, I was a licensed minister. He was licensed and ordained. We went to a fairly older church, but it was small and intimate. So we were probably preaching 2 to 3 times a week because we were the youngest people that was there. Okay. And what ended up happening was, short of the long, I ended up sharing my testimony with some of the youth. We was having a conversation about addictions, and it wasn't just sexual addiction, but it was all addiction. So to social media, to pleasing people, to food, to gambling. Like, we had the whole thing, but they kept going back to sex. Okay. So by the time I went to go do a tag team with my husband, you know, he's kind of uncomfortable because it was girls in there. Okay. And it was 12 to 16-year-olds. That was it. That short span of things. And they kept going back to this topic. So he asked, he said, listen, I know we in church, but how many of y'all have watched porn before? Every last hand was raised. So we're sitting there and now we're in a space of what do you do as a minister? Let me actually have this conversation. So it wasn't really birds and the bees, but it was more like, look, if you are doing this to get an identity, if you are doing this because you don't love yourself, like whatever you're doing it for, we focus on the whatever you're lacking on the inside of you that you feel the void with that. That was the conversation. But mind you, you got immature little kids. So then they go downstairs and they was like, Minister so-and-so, she did this, right? That's all they told their mama. They ain't say nothing about no confidence, nothing. So I was pulled to the side and basically said, if that is your testimony, you should never share it again. By the time that happened, my husband was already transitioning out to being a Hebrew Israelite. And I said, okay, well, babe, let me go ahead and get on your bandwagon because this right here is not working because I was in the church all my life. So I was extremely hurt because I'm like, these kids needed somebody to actually have this conversation. Nobody had the conversation. What else am I supposed to do? So long of the short, for 5 years, we went on this spiritual journey. When I tell you we have studied everything, we studied everything. We were Hebrew Israelites for a while. My children, both their names are Hebrew. So I'm grateful for that. We did Egyptology. At one time, I was just a spiritualist where I would go out and hug trees and ground myself with no shoes on. I had an ancestor altar. I did African spiritual. I did everything. And then eventually my husband became atheist. And then I was agnostic, where I was just like, I believe it's something bigger than me, but I don't know who the heck you are, because if I keep getting hurt, obviously I don't know where you at. So that's where I ended up. And there was a space where 2 years ago, we were driving to my Nana's house, and at a red light right there in Norfolk at the 7-Eleven, and before you go over the overpass to go to Ingleside, I said, babe, if words are like spells, then the Bible must be the biggest spell book. I'm going to give God a try again. He said, okay. And that's literally how I came back to God. It was like, I realized when we say God is in everything, we take the everything part out to fit whatever our intention or motive is. So in all of these different religions and faiths, I realized, oh, God's right there. God's right there. God. Oh, so God, you is the Almighty God. All right. So let me come back and figure out what that is. So for me, my spirituality is what gives me life. My relationship with God is what gives me life. I know one day I want to be a pastor, but I still say some flowery words, so I'm working on that. You know, but I could not do this without God, because again, He wrote this whole story. So where that 5-year hiatus of us doing whatever the ham sandwich we wanted to do, I'm realizing that it was meant something. So now I can work with every person in every environment. And then they get to see God without me even saying God. Like I recently went to go speak in Dallas. And the lady came up to me. She said, I used to be Christian, but I walked away. But when you were talking, it was something about the God you were talking about that made me realize He was real. Because I didn't have to say anything about Him. All I had to do was show up and let Him minister to me, where He spoke words to the hearts of people. And that's what we just did Pentecost Sunday, right? And we talked about how, you know, the Holy Spirit come and people speaking in tongues. I went to Grove and Pastor Manna said it this way. He said, it wasn't about speaking in tongues and can't nobody hear it. It was about they was speaking their language, but the people who was hearing it was hearing it in their language. All I did was be a vessel of God. So when I show up, I can speak about Him without speaking about Him, but it ministered to whoever needs to be ministered to, that they get it. So for me, when I am doing my business, when I am showing up, it is God. My prayer every time is, God, minimize me so then it's all you. So whatever they need to hear in their language and their understanding, they get it from you. I'm just your vessel. So when they celebrate me, they're celebrating the you that is in me. So I can't do my business. I can't be a mom. I can't be a wife. I can't be a student. I can't do any of the things that I am doing without my God, because He's the one that wrote the story. So what I did was I threw away that red pen, and I don't let anybody use their red pen on me no more. What you're not going to, I don't care if you, my mom and my dad and my parents will tell you, I will go to dozens. I respect them 100%. But what you're not going to do is tell me what God told me to do. You're not going to do that. So for me, I am so confident in my God and who He has created me to be, that when I show up and I speak, I am ministering to the souls. So much so, last example for this one is 2 weeks ago, I was in Illinois and it was my first big paid keynote speaking event, right?
Okay.
And I got there thinking I had 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I knew, 40 minutes. I get downstairs and I look at the table. They had my name listed from 1 p.m. to 4:45 p.m. There is no 40 minutes in that, right? And I'm sitting here like, oh, snap. Okay, let's go. When I tell you that was the best presentation I've ever done, and I lasted the entire time. And I had people in there crying. I had people coming up to me like, girl, I know where you speaking from. If you say one more thing, I'm gonna run around this office. I'm sitting here literally, but it was God, and it showed me in that moment that it's not about what I fleshly have the capacity of doing.
Okay.
It's what He has the capacity of doing through me when I
Mm-hmm.
take a step aside to say, God, you got it. And that's how I function. That's my spiritual life. It's me
Hey,
and God and whatever He tell me to do in that moment.
that right there is powerful. I told y'all it was going to be some nuggets being dropped. Listen, I am so honored to have you on my podcast. I tell people I'm not licensed, but the people I bring are licensed and have a story. Have a story. And you also have a thing called I'm Enough movement. That's the merch that you have.
Yeah,
Explain that. If
absolutely.
people look at it and say, I'm enough, but it has to be something else with that.
Yeah, so I remember right before COVID, I kept getting a bunch of questions. So I'm like the go-to suicide therapist in the area.
Okay.
Especially for young kids, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a way that you have to work with them so that their feelings of hurt, but you still kind of heal, right? So I
Okay.
kept asking this question, why are kids committing suicide?
Mm-hmm.
And I simply said, because they don't feel like they're enough.
Mm.
Like we have this Maslow hierarchy of needs. Talk a lot about the self-actualization. That's when I fulfill my purpose. I'm living my dreams. I've reached all my goals. We all strive for that. And then we talk about basic needs, which is food, water, shelter, and sex even lives down there, right? But there's the
Mm-hmm.
one on top of that that says safety and belonging.
Okay.
I cannot feel safe if I don't feel like I belong.
Belong. Yes.
So when we are growing up, and me as a mom, listen, I don't have it all together because we have so many ways of discipline and how to raise children and all these
Mm-hmm.
things. But the one thing that I can say with confidence that we have failed at was allowing for our children to feel like they're enough.
Okay.
Because if we live in a world where constructive criticism is glorified and validation is literally like, you better not validate nobody. Nobody need to validate your existence. But
Mm.
I realized it's not validation, it's showing me that I value you.
Okay.
So when you're growing up, if you feel anything other than happy, your parents want to change it. If you crying, what you crying for, I'm gonna give you something to cry about.
Goodbye.
If you are upset and angry, what you mad at? You ain't got no issues. You ain't got no problems. You a kid. I gotta pay bills. I gotta do whatever. Get up.
Mm.
Get yourself together. Throw in a temper tantrum. Get your behind up. Or I'm gonna leave you in this store. I'll call CPS myself. I said that before. I'm sorry. But
Right. Yeah, right.
we say all these things to our children.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they get home, if the room's not clean, you better clean your room. If the grade's not right, you better get your grades right. If you do one misstep, if you don't come in when the street light come on and you 2 minutes behind, I'm gonna wear your behind out. We did all these things to our children
Mm-hmm.
that we never valued their existence.
Mm.
If you wash dishes, you never heard your mom say thank you for washing dishes because you were supposed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If your room is clean today, you don't hear your mama saying nothing about thank you for cleaning your room because you're supposed to do it. So when we grow up, we know all the defects and what I need to do better. I don't never hear what I did well.
Correct.
So what I did was I realized that if I can create a shirt that in a moment that somebody is about to take their life,
Mm-hmm.
or if someone's having a hard day, them simply reading I'm enough lets them know that no matter if you lose any weight, no matter what race you are, no matter what spirituality you have, regardless of your belief system, what you just did in that day, in this moment right now, you are enough just as you are. If you don't do not one more thing. So I said, you know what? If I can create something that way, then when people read it, people see it, then they, in that one moment, if I can keep them alive for one more second,
Mm-hmm.
that's what the I'm Enough movement was birthed out of. And plus, back in the day, I wanted to be a fashion designer. So that's a
Okay.
little tip of mine. And I said, okay, let me morph this. So I created a print on demand store.
Mm-hmm.
I can go up there, play around with patterns and things
Yeah.
that makes me feel good. And then on the shirts, it says I'm enough. On my pillows, on my shoes, it says I'm enough, because I want for people to know that if you don't do not one more thing,
Right.
you are enough right now. Like when we die, we can't take none of this crap with us.
Nothing.
Not literally the only thing that you're going to be surmised to is a summary and an obituary that talks about all the things you did well.
Right. That
But if
somebody.
you never know what you did well, then what do? They fill it with a bunch of nonsense and somebody else talks. No,
That.
like you got to be the one that take control over your dash. So when I know that I'm enough,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to show up in a different way, in a different capacity. So that's what the movement is all about. I want for people to know that they are enough just the way that they are. My girl, Tony Jones, she says it this way: we are human beings, not human doers. I want for people to know, if they don't do not one more thing, if you don't accomplish one more thing, if you don't get another certificate, if your kid is in jail, I don't care what's going on. If you were divorced, if you a different religion, if you a different sexuality, I don't care what the ham sandwich you are.
Right.
You are enough right where you are. And when you get that, then you can fulfill that purpose that you was created to fulfill.
Wow. Hey, I am blown away. I'm going to be listening to this podcast over and over and over. I love it. I love your passion. I love how you present it. Everything. I mean, I speak for a living, but I was very attentive in this. It felt like I took my medicine. I'm like, whoa, this is good. Listen, could you please give people your social media and how they can find you? Oh, I was about to say and connect with you, but how they can find you and learn from your resources.
Absolutely. So my main hub is my website, which is www.myliratransforms.com. If you go on Facebook, I'm just Mylira Green. I haven't met any other Mylira Green. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
you can just follow me on Facebook, and then Instagram is Mylira Transforms. On YouTube, I have Transforming with Mylira YouTube page. In the month of March, we did a whole complete Superwoman thing. So if you want to hear more stories of women who were able to overcome and turn their pain into purpose, that is up there as well. Every Friday I'm on the Michael Collier show as their relationship specialist. So if you missed those, I also have those on my YouTube too. And I love to give my phone number, because I always tell people I am not going to reach my purpose if people don't know where to find me.
Correct.
And if you ever email me, message me on social media, it comes directly to me. You don't get anybody. One
Correct.
day I
Yep.
probably will have an admin, but right now
Right. Yeah.
it's just me. But you can call 757-609-0694. Again, that's 757-609-0694. And I have people reach out to me all over the world that's like, hey, I heard what you had to say. I want to get a therapist. I want to get a coach. I want to do something. If you text me or call me, what I can do is plug you into the right resources, even if I'm not the right resource.
I love it.
So that's where you can find me at.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That is my keyword too. I can give you to resources if I'm not the right resource for you.
Yes.
I love it, because one thing I always say, if I come to you as a coach, you can't fix my life.
Mm-hmm.
You can give me the tools to fix my life. It's up to me to realize I have to do the work the resources that you gave me to me. So that is, so I just want folks to know, if you go talk to Miss Mylira and you be like, well, she ain't helped me. No. She's going to give you the tools. It's up to you to do the work.
Yes.
Quickly, give me some parting words that'll help someone very quickly.
Okay, very quickly, what I will tell you is this: everything that you need is already within. But if you sit still enough and stop running away from you, you will begin to actually see who you are. And if you don't know where to start, it is 100% okay to go and get some help. I got all these bomb credentials behind my name, but I have a therapist.
Come on now.
I have a life coach. I have mentors. I have accountability people, because I do not have it all together. But allow for my life story to show you that even a broken crayon can color. So if you are a broken crayon and you're trying to figure out what the heck to do,
come on,
just start coloring. And I promise you, even when you color outside the lines, it's normally that abstract art that gets the most money. So go ahead and be that masterpiece, mastering piece, because you deserve it and you are enough just where you are.
Well, thank you for coming on this podcast. I am so honored to have you and so honored to know you. And Miss Mylira Green, you are released from the stigma-free zone. Thank you. Thank y'all for tuning in. Please share this podcast, share this video, and just allow people to get an understanding of what their self-worth is, because it is self. Thank you.